And good afternoon, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch Mentor. We're back again for our weekly series, our COO Roundtable discussion, one topic per week. And again, today we are going to be talking about something that I'm passionate about, is close to my heart, because it's really about setting your teams up for success. The topic today is about operational rhythm. It's about setting up a cadence for your team to be successful in. And I'll outline today what those individual components are. Of course, there's a lot more to it. And right up front, I can tell you that if you like, go to Amazon.com and pick up my copy of the book Operational Rhythm, where I spell out really, line by line on how to do this in your organization. And I'm, of course, always willing, capable, and available to have a meeting with your team, or talk strategy, or talk operations, to make this part of the DNA of your team itself. Again, in November, I talk about talent management, and we covered these topics over the last couple of weeks. In December, I like to talk about planning and strategy implementation. There is nothing more important that the board, the governing body, provides a crystal clear vision of what the expectation is for the next performance year. Now, they don't do the implementation operational part of it, but the chief operating officer or the AVP of operations and, of course, their subordinates are in charge of making these things operational. Too often, and there's a horrible statistic out there, that 70 to 80% of the things that we set out to do, right, that's part of the vision, never get completed or never reach the level of what we call performance. And that's really scary. And we really need to change, especially in healthcare today, where the bottom lines are razor thin, if not negative. It becomes more and more important that we start working with greater diligence and a greater sense of responsibility and a greater sense of accountability. But we cannot do this by telling people what to do and how to do it. Right? We need to engage the team. We need to build trust with the team. We need to guide them the way. And as I've spoken in the past, it always starts with self-awareness. Right? Understanding you as the leader, how am I positioning myself? I'm a big proponent of supporting the servant leadership style. Right? That situational leadership. It's not about me, it's about them. It's about really deeply understanding what are my true differentiating strengths. How can I leverage these on my team? How can I surround myself with the talent necessary to become that high-performance team? How can I make sure that I live those key responsibilities of a leader, love the people that I lead, leading through context and not control, making sure that we set up a winning environment and work with great focus, right? How can I inspire and motivate my team members? How can I build these meaningful, deep partnerships with people? At the end of the day, that is about you. And how you use this to help identify what needs to be done in 2025 and how you operationalize that with your team is the key to success. And there are a lot of mishits. There's a lot of good intentions, but our level of satisfaction with ourselves, with the team's performance, is often not warranted, is not aligned, it's not right. I did a recent survey and asking the simple question, how many of you feel that you've met performance this year? And people will tell you 80% I met my expectations this year. And if you really look in the mirror quietly with nobody else around and ask the same question again, I can bet you that you're more 20 or 30% successful. And 70% you barely met expectations or felt quite somewhat out of that. Or didn't follow through or didn't need it at all. So again, this is not about being a hammer on your people about performance. This is about finding that ultimate rhythm. You want to go online, go to YouTube and type in the piano guys. It's a great example on how 4 or 5 guys can work on the piano and play beautiful music together. But that didn't happen by chance. Right? They really worked hard together to understand, do we have the right people in the right roles? Do they have the skills and capabilities and understanding? Right? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? How do we go about doing these things? How do we practice this? How do we measure this? Be accountable for the actions, accountable for the outcomes, and take countermeasures, right? That's what the synchronized team is all about. Being fully committed and self-directed. So over the next bunch of slides, the next half an hour, I'm going to lay this out to you. By all means, post in a comment, send me a comment afterwards. Reach out to me at thedutchmentor.com and book a free consultation call if you want to talk a little bit more on how this applies to your team. But there is a secret sauce. There's no question about that. How do I know? I've used this now since 2011-12 when I was first introduced to it. And we have a placebo, a team that is not using this, and we have teams who are using it. Clearly, every single time the team that has bought into this concept is outperforming the team that has not. So with that said, it is focused today on the operational rhythm inside of a healthcare system. But this can work in any organization of any discipline, right? So we're just using healthcare as an example over here. Because the first question always comes is that, where's my return on investment? And it's a fair question. Because, the last thing we need to do is hire another McKinsey, spend $1 million to find out what is wrong with us, and then nothing happens with that, right? That happens way too often. So the return on investment and the efforts in putting this into play over the next 6, 12, 18 months is having a measurable outcome. Everything that speaks operational rhythm is about measurement. It's about improving something. There could be a reduction in wait time in the emergency department. It could be a decrease in bed turnover, medical errors, denial rate, financial margins at the hospital. Just make a difference. All of these things have a clear start and a finish. And where there is great focus, we get great results. Where we measure things, both driving an outcome, we can see the progression we're making to an outcome. And if we don't, we take countermeasures to that. So yes, with the return on investment in mind, right, everything about operational rhythm is about measurement. Right? How can we move the ball from point A to point B to point C? Using smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely measures in a meaningful way. So it starts, of course, with having the right people and the right roles. That is something not about getting rid of people. This is about managing your people, right? Leading your people, managing your processes to make sure that you have the team that is currently in place, especially if you're a leader coming into a new organization, you're adopting a team. Rarely any one of us gets to build a team from scratch, right? It is assessing the skills and competencies of your team members, right? Having a deeper understanding of what the cultural fit is, what are the dynamics of the team itself, how do people play off each other and with each other, right? And really, what are the capabilities around adaptability and learning agility, right? Are they truly functioning as one, or are these 10 individuals working on one team? And we can talk about that later, because often the targets are different. But it is exceptionally important that we take the time and understand the gap between the capabilities and capacity of the team members that we have. Once we have a deeper understanding of that, we want to make sure that all these folks are placed in the right roles. That could be the right roles of the discipline that they are functioning, like a doctor, or a nurse, or a technician. But sometimes we also have to adjust them to what teams they work on from project improvement standpoint. You heard me say earlier that we start with self-awareness, and self-awareness is about really understanding what is my differentiating strength. What can I bring to a team that helps the team advance? Well, they're no different than making the assessment of the right people in the right role. Is really understanding, right? The role clarity. Make sure that we don't have too many people with the same skill sets on that particular team. But we don't want to have all introverts or all extroverts. We want a nice mixture. I always even say today is that we're even better off having some neurodiverse people on our teams who are, specifically really good at a certain task or certain ability to analyze, while we might have extroverts who are exceptional communicators. But it is really important that the team that you develop has diverse, skill set. That's what makes us stronger. Right? It also helps us with bonding the team together and getting to that level of ownership, fully committed and self-directed. Right? Not renters, but fully committed and self-directed. People who want to be on the team, who understand, where the ship is heading and what is expected of them. So, of course, with that, the right people and the right roles, and closing the gaps where you have identified gaps. It's about developing that unified vision. Yes, it is the responsibility of the governing body of the institution to develop the mission, vision, value statement for the organization. And it's the CEO and the CEO's role to take that vision and then break it down into components to where each person fits in order to operationalize that. But that is the North Star, right? That is the expected outcome. Bring that back to any of your divisions. You need to restate what that unified vision is, but then from the point of view of the discipline you work with. It's different if you work with doctors or nurses or radiologists or ancillary services, right? It all needs to be broken down into language that the people that you lead understand. At the end of the day, it is about having collaborative vision setting exercise. That's what I do in December with all of my teams. We look back how well we did, what we didn't do well, what did we learn, and then come together and developing that vision for 2025. Right now, developing the vision is one step. Step two is, of course, how can we communicate that vision? And then making sure that people have understood what the vision is. And too often we go wrong. We put out a bullet, this is the goal for 2025, and off we go. Maybe in March we revisit that we do our performance evaluations, but that's not good enough. Right? This is a continuous check-in. Communication is the key to long-term success, because measuring, which is the next step, is the way that we can continuously see how well we are doing to get to the end goal. So the next step after you have really taken the time to build that unified vision is to deeply understand what meaningful metrics need to be attached to those. And these are outcome metrics, right? How well have we done? That's an outcome. But we need to even better understand what are our driving metrics. So here's some examples, right? Team productivity, quality of output, customer patient satisfaction outcomes, cycle time of operations. Well, all these make sense, but these are outcomes. These are things that are reported out usually on a monthly or quarterly basis. But what are driving those? That's what you really want to measure. That's really what you want to talk about at your daily huddle and put on your daily management board. Those are the metrics that are going to be driven by the managers. There needs to be a deep understanding and agreement and alignment around it, because if people know and understand where the measure comes from, and they know and see how they are influencing those measures, then we can make a difference, right? The outcomes then becomes more predictable. Of course, there's nothing worse than, and we do this all of the time, and especially in the healthcare environment, we report out monthly or quarterly outcome metrics. But what happens if we have 2 quarters in a row of negative outcomes? How much time has gone by and lost that we could have been working on the drivers if we had real-time results, right? Real-time drivers and outcomes that becomes far more predictable, right? It's about making sure that we take action and countermeasures if we're not performing up to expectation itself. So once we have a unified vision, we have meaningful metrics, we have a daily management board, we have put into place, all of the things to be able to visualize how well we are doing towards the end goal, right, towards that North Star. Now we have to establish a cadence of accountability. And that starts in a daily huddle. Listen, if I would be in a group of 50 people right now and ask you, so raise a hand for all of you who go to a daily huddle. I think probably 95% of you will raise your hand that you're involved in either virtual or an in-person huddle. Ask this next question: how many of you find the huddles to be value adding? And you'll see that people are telling you probably 10 or 15%. Why? Because the huddles are long. They talk about disciplines that have no connection to me. Right? So we have to reassess on how we conduct our daily huddles to make sure it's value adding. They're supposed to be stand-up exercises, 7 minutes long, that are actionable, right? That are value adding to the people that are attending. It is about having a rapid fire meeting on a weekly basis to take a weekend review and say, how well did we do? What did I say I was going to do? What is the outcome of that? And what should I be doing for next week? And holding oneself accountable if you are missing the mark somewhere. We can have monthly reviews with the next level leaders. And then, of course, we want to go back to, on a quarterly basis, to reassess that all of the actions that we are taking are being impactful. And if they're not, we need to be pragmatic and stop them and go back and redesign let's try something different. Like going back to the same thing over and over and over, I think is what Einstein was, referred to as being foolish, right? It's not a way to get to the operational level of high performance. And then lastly is about taking the action, right? None of it matters if we are not moving the ball. So it is really, really important that now you bring it all together in the cadence of accountability and daily and weekly activities is to make sure that we know what is on, in the pipeline. We need to identify the actions that are going to be taken. We want to write these down, and people need to be accountable to those, right? Need to own these things. We need to make sure that we have deadlines in place, so it's not in perpetuity, but it is something that is a finite start and a finish to it. We want to continue to monitor progress, and the key here is to take appropriate countermeasures if we are not meeting expectations. Now, this is where the danger comes in, especially in healthcare, because it's always very busy in the organization. We tend to be really good firefighters, right? We go out and we fight a fire, we put it out. We don't really fix the root causes, and then we move on to the next thing, only waiting for it to rekindle and do it again and again and again. So problem solving is really critically important part of becoming a high performance team. So if you do these things in order that you are continuously working on having the right people in the right roles, making sure that we are truly unified and aligned around what it is that we're trying to accomplish, not 15 things, but the vital 3, right? 1, 2, 3 things. Accomplish them, then add something else to it. Make sure that we know and understand how we can measure these things in fine detail. Making sure that we take accountability and take action on a daily and weekly basis. That is the pulse of a high-performance team. These are not things that you have to tell them. This becomes part of the DNA. Right? We want to make sure that we live, by certain rules that we have bought into. Right? One of the exercises I do with all of the team is building a team concord. Right? What is the name of the team? What are the values of the team? Critically important, what are the rules of the team? And then it is about, what are the consequences if we don't play by those particular rules? So again, let's think about this for a second. And these are some of the projects that I've worked on personally over the last 10 to 15 years. And, all of them are still relevant today. Right? Early in my career, I had a great opportunity to work more from a facilities standpoint, using my Lean Six Sigma skills at that point in time on reducing ED wait times. This was both about a physical footprint, the number of steps taken by each of the disciplines, but also the process on how we were taking patients. We went from a typical ER where people waited for hours on end to having the first no-wait ER in New York State, and that's still in place today. Patients, instead of waiting for half an hour to 2 hours, are still being seen within 5 minutes of arrival, being triaged and then action plans put into place. Throughput. We have worked with teams where throughput is consistently, difficult. It's a difficult discipline because we have to work with multiple disciplines, right? The triad, the doctors, the nurses, and everybody else. We can make a material impact there if the team consistently works together as one and is open to trying new things. And that really is the resistance to change is often seen in one of the disciplines while the other ones want to play ball. Right? This is what leadership comes into play. This is where the top needs to be involved and engaged. And that's how we were successful in ED wait time reduction. Because the CEO, the CMO, the CNO made it their priority to be able to reduce these numbers and attended every single last one of the meetings. Not to talk, but to be present, to be supportive, to remove barriers. But that's how we can tackle throughput too. As long as it's a problem of one discipline, nothing will ever happen. But as soon as it becomes a problem of us, right, then we can try things out on one unit and spread the goodness after that. As we talked about the finance of a hospital, I've worked with a team recently that we reduced the denial rate by 42%. But that equated to a lot of money. And if you think about the opportunity cost, right, the people who have 42% fewer denials to process now have time to do other things that can help the bottom line. Again, they got this accomplished because they worked as one team. And we followed these 5 steps of operational rhythm in order to be able to not only get to that particular point, but sustain it over an extended period of time. And then one of my passions, of course, is about growth and development. It's one of those areas that is often overlooked. Right? It is we make the statements early in the year that we're going to provide the support, but then we pull it as soon as the bottom line gets a little bit tight. When we provide growth and development opportunities, when we use the talent management tools appropriately, where we identify the box 1, 2s, and 3s, and we develop plans, we can recruit and re-recruit and retain those talents. And it will come at a significant savings to the organization. Right? And you can replicate that. Really, really critical. Again, all these things can be applied to an operational rhythm and be able to get the results. So what are the benefits, right? It clearly enhances the interdepartmental coordination. This is not meant to be one discipline for one. This is about having the right people in the right roles in order to tackle the issues that matter most. Right? It is having the right resources being allocated. Improving, staff morale and engagement. We know if there's trust, one non-negotiable, and if there is engagement, we can move mountains together. Right? And on the end of the day, all that we do is about the patient. If we work well together as one team, we can move the patient through the system in a highly effective manner that is still patient-centric and also, of course, helps with the bottom line. Of course, no system comes without its challenges. And it is all about overcoming the resistance to change. That is the most difficult thing that you will do as a leader. And as a chief operating officer or somebody who wants to be in that particular role, that is one thing that will be your responsibility. How can I lower the resistance to change? Well, start at the beginning. Right people, right roles. Making sure that you have the right skills, knowledge, and abilities. That you have the right people with the right skill set and strengths on the team that can help leverage that. If you do this well, you will reduce the resistance to change. If you tell people, resistance goes up. If you bring people in, have them be part of the solution, resistance is lowered. And of course, the time constraints is the age-old argument. I don't have time for this. But, we're getting to a point that the bottom line is so narrow, so thin, that we don't have time not to do this. So we have to make time for our practitioners to be participating in these types of exercises. And again, 3 to 5 people on a team. Clearly identify an area that it is aligned with the North Star and break that down. And you get the results that you desire. So the solution to this is not trying to boil the ocean, but truly have incremental implementation. Identify the 1, 2, maybe 3 things that are most important to your organization. And then tackle those first. Only once you have control over that, move on to number 4, 5, 6. And yes, I'm sure the list has 60 things on it. But if you add more to that prematurely, the resistance to change will go up. Right? If your role as this executive leader is to lower the resistance to change. The better you do this, the easier it is to get things across the finish line with sustainable outcomes. Right? Anybody can get anything across the finish line. But can they sustain it is a whole different ball of wax. And many people fail at that. Right? 70% of the people fail at sustainable processes over time. And then, of course, it is the endorsement of leadership on all the right levels. And I would strongly encourage that the C-suite, if there's an identified problem in your healthcare system that needs to be fixed, be involved. Not by doing it, but by leading it, by being engaged. Go to the meetings, show encouragement and support, remove barriers, use your words of affirmation and encouragement. But if you're present, it will be more important to them. Right? If you're just sitting in the office, you don't go on the Gemba, it's unlikely that you will get the point across. All right, the call to action. Right? All of the presentations I've done up to this point in time, if you don't take action coming out of the conversation that we have, the likelihood of change is significantly reduced. right? So if you want to establish an operational rhythm, if you want this to become the DNA of your team, because we know that this is the secret sauce to high performance, you have to start today. Write those 5 words down. Write the right roles, unified vision, meaningful metrics, cadence of accountability, and taking action. Reach out to me at thedutchmentor.com and book a free strategy call, and let's have a conversation about how you can do this with your team. Go out and buy my book. Online, I spelled it out for you on how to put this into play with your particular team. And it doesn't make a difference if you're a team of 5 people in a small department or a team of hundreds. This works on all levels of the organization. Why? Because it speaks to the respect to people. It speaks to the fact that we're not doing things to them, but with them. It speaks to the fact that we want to create ownership around the issues, not treat them like a bunch of vendors. So my QR code is right there. Scan it. Go to my calendar, book a 30-minute spot. Let's have a conversation. And I'll help you along the way. And if I can be any of assistance, short-term or long-term, of course, we can have a conversation about that. But my driver really is to make it easy for the teams. It's about the people, right? And show respect to them in order to get the outcomes that we as potential patients want. And a highly effective healthcare system where I get the care needed and that I get to go home when it is time to go home. Have a wonderful afternoon. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you have any questions, post it in the comments below. Send me an email at info@thedutchmentor.com. And again, I'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another presentation, another topic. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon again. Thank you very much. Ciao.